Hello,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm doing okay. Robert, Dr. Robert over here. Do you hear
Wonderful.
me? Do you hear
Yes,
me?
yes, we can hear you. Thank you for joining.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
All right, well, we've got about one more minute before the beginning of our colloquium presentation. I'm glad that you have all been able to attend. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'd like to introduce our presenters today. Logan Todd and Nicole Puff are our two presenters. Logan Todd is United States University's Career and Alumni Services Specialist, providing career-related support and resources for our students and graduates. She is a certified career services provider, certified MBTI practitioner, global career development facilitator, and has an MBA from Binghamton University, specializing in business analytics, leadership, and counseling. Logan has spent the last 10 plus years in marketing, business, and higher education career service settings, and takes enormous pride in mentoring and guiding students and professionals as they pursue careers that they love and enjoy. In addition to career advising, Logan lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan, is a dog mom to her 2-year-old Cocker Spaniel / Cavalier mix named Ollie, and a self-proclaimed donut connoisseur. Nicole has worked in higher education for 12 plus years and currently serves as the Director of Academic Services and Assessment at United States University. Within this role, she supports all curriculum efforts, new program development, assessment, faculty support, and a wide range of other initiatives. With the support of USU, Nicole participated in the WASC Accreditation Leadership Academy and helped jumpstart new initiatives focused heavily on student success. She loves finding new ways to enhance the student experience. Prior to coming to USU, Nicole worked in various roles throughout her experience in higher education, including career services, and has a special interest in making sure students understand the career value of their education. At previous institutions, she worked to integrate career services into over 100 courses and improved graduate placement outcomes by 50 to 70% within various healthcare occupations. While she is no longer in the career services field, she still believes it's one of the most valuable departments of an institution and continues to find ways to integrate career services into a student's educational journey. Welcome to both of you, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hain. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We have lots of information jam-packed, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to unmute yourself, put them in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable with. But we know it's a lot of information being thrown at you today, but it's all helpful information. So Linda kind of already introduced us, but if you're not familiar, we are both part of the Office of Institutional Research and Assessment team. So if you hear or get emails from us, it's us behind the scenes with a few others, Bridget and David and Manon. So we're all working hard, but today we're going to be chatting about different ways that you can embed career development in your classes, in the work that you do with students if you're student facing, but not in a classroom. There's still lots of ways that you can be career focused and really support our students in becoming successful graduates. Setting the frame for today, why is career development important? I'm sure you already have ideas. You all got to this point in the stage of your career because of networking or interactions or your degrees. But really, career development helps our students take ownership of their degree, helps them understand why they're going to school in the first place, and really helps them feel more motivated, and feel like the education that they're going through right now has a purpose. And so that relates directly with our sense of belonging, is that we want all of our students to belong in a remote environment. That can be really tough. So what are some things that we can do to help them feel like they belong even more? Post-graduation success rates are required for my job, but they're also really important for the university's growth, and making sure we have that data accessible for students so that they can see this is where graduates are placed, this is the percentage of them, this is a success likelihood that you would get placed outside of the program as well. And if you're not, education is now making career services a requirement for institutions. So a little bit more on that. They put out regulations so that starting July 1st of this year, there's lots and lots of regulations, but within the administrative capability portion, they did recommend that all schools must offer adequate career services. That means a couple different things, like data-informed practices, having services and educational opportunities available to students. And so the good news is we're already doing this right now. But the key piece is really helping our students prepare for the job market. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with what's going on because it's a lot. And so some things that I hear a lot from our students and our grads is that I keep applying for jobs, but I can't secure a position. Or I feel like my skills aren't really up for par anymore and they're not really useful for jobs. Or I was not prepared for my virtual hiring process. Those are the three things that I hear all the time. So some different items or some different trends that we're seeing in the job market is that there's a lot of layoffs, especially if you go on LinkedIn. It's almost like every other post is someone saying that they're recently laid off from a large scale organization. So good news is that's not necessarily in healthcare related roles, which is majority of our student population. But a lot of larger tech or business related organizations, that is happening. So definitely be aware of that. The time to employment is expanding. So typically someone could find a position, apply, interview, and get hired within a month. Now it's expanding to 3+ months. So that's pretty interesting as well. Their motivation is getting lower and lower and lower because it's taking so long for them to get employed. And a lot of things are really kind of responsible for this, including AI processes. So there's not really human tracking that most of the time, right? You're going to apply. The AI is going to scan, review your applications, give you rankings, and then maybe they're going to move on to a hiring process. But really both employers and candidates are using AI now for their applications. So it's really a different ballgame for the job market. And same thing with interviews too, is that before they even interview with a real person, they're doing what's called a one-way interview, where they sit in front of their camera and they're recording their responses. They're not even talking to a real person. And so that's been a really big challenge for those seasoned job seekers, or in our case, our students who maybe are coming back after being in a career for many, many years and they haven't interviewed in a while. Or we have our career changers too. So that upskilling and reskilling is huge in the job market. So they're really taking people who are already working at the company and either making them go get new certifications, new training, new skills, so that they can move up or move over into a vertical role. They would rather keep the employees than hire new ones. And so that's kind of relating to the, I keep applying, but I can't really secure a position. Or healthcare is doing great, and so is education, right? You always hear all the time about teacher shortages. And so these two industries are really booming right now. So if you're looking for a job, we have students who are, of course, healthcare and education are doing great. Retail, hospitality, and food service, however, are declining because these are becoming more automated. Rather than hiring humans, they're hiring robots to do the jobs. Networking and personal connections are still the key. They're still the key for applications. If you submit an application, it's better that you communicate with the person who's hiring, or maybe talk to someone who works at the organization. Hopefully you can get a referral. That goes a really long way. Work from home roles, most of us are doing that right now. They're becoming a lot more mainstream and people don't want to go back into an office. And so employers are being forced to offer roles that have a hybrid or a work from home environment. And I mentioned this a little bit about employee retention, but it is incredibly important in 2024. They want good talent and they want to keep it. So how are they doing that? They have to come up with innovative strategies and approaches to really retain those humans. And one of those components is increasing the transparency of salaries, putting it out there when they're posting the job what the salary range is. Because if it's not posted, people are less likely to apply. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And so how the heck are we even preparing our graduates, but also preparing ourselves for what's next too in the field of work? And so hopefully Nicole and I can kind of give you some strategies to embed career development into their programs and then help them prepare for the job market. Just a little bit more background here. NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. They're a very large organization that works directly with institutions and employers to provide really solid data. And so from this graph, they basically did a survey of all of the career competencies and what employers think are important. And then they surveyed candidates and students on how they feel their proficiency was. And then they asked the employers to rate their proficiency. And so the data that you see in the graph, so the importance is what the employer thinks is important. The proficiency is what the employer rated the student. And so you can see the difference here. Professionalism, career and self-development, and leadership abilities are the ones that candidates often oversell themselves in. So they think that they're highly proficient, but they're really not. And so these three areas especially are things that we can do here at USU to help prepare them. Similarly, employers have really high expectations for candidates to have critical thinking skills, communication, and teamwork. And a lot of these can be difficult when we have a remote university, right? But thinking creatively on what things we already do in our programs to help them gain these skills. So just some interesting data insight here for this survey, and really seeing that candidates always oversell themselves, but when an employer is rating them, we really see the difference here. So as I said, we're doing a lot of stuff here at USU already, and I've spent the last year and a half or so really preparing our students with our career and alumni services resources. So we have an awesome website that has on-demand resources and information. I offer one-on-one appointments, also lots of workshops to prepare our students. And then on the website, there's a bunch of different resume guides, templates. I also have job search resources, interviewing resources. So it's an abundance of resources, but I want to make sure that our students have what they need. And one of those resources, the sections on the website, is our identity-based resources. We have a very diverse population of students here at USU, and so catering to their needs and making sure that they have the resources that they individually need to succeed, especially as an example for our military students, our active duty or veteran students. There's an entire section there for just those types of resources. So really targeting our students and figuring out how can we be more equitable in the things that we provide. My monthly newsletters go out. If you're interested in getting the newsletter, you can just send me an email, I'll add you to the list. 1220 is the system I use for data collection. And then the JCPenney Suit Up event is an opportunity for you all, in addition to our students, to save on professional clothing and attire. So you can save up to 60%, which is pretty cool. So if you need a new suit, or if you're attending commencement and you want to look really fancy, definitely check out the JCPenney Suit Up event. And then the last thing, which is the newest item, is our Empower You mentoring program. And so I'm very excited to share that that cohort will start on September 3rd, and there'll be 15 batches, which is very exciting. My goal is 10. So the fact that we exceeded that and we're at 15, I'm very happy about that. And there's definitely more to come. So as I said, good news is that we already kind of checked the box, the Department of Education requirements, but there's lots more coming. It's important to remember that I'm only one human, right? I'm only one human for all of our students. So there's no way that I can just be the only human doing all this amazing work. That's why I really rely on all of you as faculty and staff to kind of have that career focused mindset and really help our students in an extended way of what I do. And so when you look at the landscape of students coming to staff and faculty for career support, because before me, there was no one. And so NACE did a survey again, and they were really targeting faculty and what students were doing. And so they were actually surveying to see if students were coming to faculty for career advice. And so this statistic here is really interesting. 92% of faculty that took the survey reported that students asked them for career advice within the past year. You really are the line of defense, whether you're faculty or staff, right? You are the person who that they come to first before they usually get to me. And so that's pretty common. But when we look at our alumni, 3 out of 5 or 63% alumni from the institution reached out as well. So it's not just students, it's also alumni too. And as I said, you're kind of that first line. You're the people that they go to, you're the people that they interact with more often. And so you have a really important job outside of teaching classes and being there to support them. But you might not feel like you're capable of doing that, or you feel like this isn't my job, right? Which rightfully so, your job is in career services. But you do have the capacity to support them. And so this survey, it was the same survey, but these results showed why they don't feel confident enough. And that's if they didn't have enough time, they don't feel like they have enough knowledge or expertise, or they feel like it's going to take away from their course, or in this case, if you're a staff, from their job. And so, yes, all of these points are valid, but I promise you, Nicole and I are going to give you some awesome tips today for you to feel prepared and confident to actually support our students with career stuff. So real quick, using the little reactions, you can give me a little thumb or a smiley face. How many of you actually have received an email from a student or alumni asking for some type of career advice? So job searching, resume help, letters of recommendation, next steps. So for nursing students, maybe they ask you about credentialing steps, or same with teacher credentialing as well. How many of you have gotten emails or requests or questions? Or ask them if you knew of any jobs or people hiring? A couple of you. Yeah. So that just proves my point, is that they are coming to you. And so, as I said, you are that first line of defense. Our students and graduates are coming to you before they get to me typically. And so I really think it's important for you all to know what resources are available and really kind of be that liaison in a way. Also remembering we support non-traditional learners, and that holds a lot of weight. And what I mean by that is that these students and these individuals are working parents. They have full-time jobs. They might not have support systems or networks in their place to really support them, especially role models. Right? They might not have someone that they can go to, and so they're reaching out to you because that's who you are to them. And so it's especially important in this role is that we share our stories because they are really important and they can inspire our students to do better. And so remembering all of that, but also remembering it doesn't stop at graduation. We're beyond graduation. They always come back and they want help. And it's a good thing that they ask for help because that means someone helped them before. And so I encourage you to be that human so that they can come back to us and ask for help in the future. So what can we do? I'm going to pass it over to Nicole to talk about specifically faculty and those who have responsibilities in the classroom. And then we'll switch it back over and talk about some faculty or some staff, really faculty as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Logan. Hi, guys. I'm Nicole. So I wasn't going to share this necessarily, but something I think that's really important to remember when we're working with our students, specifically our non-traditional low socioeconomic students, is that social capital is a really big thing for our students. I remember one time many years ago, I was working with a student and I'd set her up for an interview. And she was great. She was a 4.0 student, awesome, great student, really personable. I sent her to a doctor's office and I got a call from the doctor's office and they said, we loved her, but we can never hire her to represent our office. And I'm like, what? Why? And they said she wore a mini skirt. Her shirt was too low. She had flip-flops on. And I'm like fuming. I just cannot believe that someone would go to an interview this way. So I called the student. I said, what happened? And she said, "Oh, Nicole, I emptied my bank account. I went to Ross and I got the cutest outfit for this interview, but I think it's going to pay off. It's going to be worth it for me because I nailed the interview. So I don't have any money left, but I got the cutest outfit I could find." So it kind of clicked for me. She had no idea that that was not an appropriate interview attire. More than likely, she didn't have someone at home modeling it for her. And I take that for granted, honestly, that I had parents who worked, and I saw how you would interview and how you would dress professionally. But for some of our students, something that we assume is really that baseline knowledge might not be there. So that was really a light bulb moment to me, that I've had the privilege to see my parents navigate their careers, but not all of our students have seen this. And what we think might be so just obvious might not be obvious for our students. So here's kind of a couple ways where as faculty within your current courses, I know we use a master shell approach, so you don't have too much wiggle room within the actual curriculum itself, but there's still a lot of things you can do. One of them is using the introduction or the discussion questions to discuss their career goals. So every course more than likely has an introduction post, and typically students will say, "I want to do this," or "I'm transitioning here," or "I'm interested in specializing here." Use that opportunity to really continue that conversation. See what they know about that field. Offer any resources you can. Use that kind of first meeting point to just start that conversation about their future career. Another way would be share how the assignments will support their real life careers. There's a concept within career readiness that it's not necessarily a skills gap, it's a skills awareness gap. So our curriculum, we're preparing our students to be where they need to be, but sometimes they're not aware of what those skills are and how the assignments they're doing contribute to their real world application. So an example might be a case study, right? In a case study, they're building critical thinking skills, maybe some presentation skills, some strategy skills. They're building all these skills, but in their mind, it's just a case study. They've done a dozen of these, and they're not seeing that when they interview, they can talk about, "I've done hundreds of these case studies. I can strategically go in, look at, data and come up with solutions." They're not in that frame of mind. So a really easy way would be sharing in the announcements, "Hey, this week we're going to do a case study. There's so much application here for your career, and here's what that looks like." Another would be discussing the skill development within the assignment feedback. So I know we use the rubric, but within your feedback, just giving extra ideas about the skills they're developing and maybe how they can continue to develop their skills or where they're at with where they should be. Another, like Logan said, would be sharing your own career journey, your tips, advice. We all have experience or, just advice to give there. And then the last, this is not necessarily as much of a student issue or a student concern as it is for me. If there are assignments or discussions that you feel need adjustments, please tell me, or your program director, or your lead faculty, or your dean. If you feel like we are missing the mark with an assignment even as an adjunct faculty, it is never beyond us to change an assignment where maybe we just have it wrong, or maybe we're just not making the mark on those skills. We can't be in all 300, 400 classes all the time. And so as the workforce evolves, if you're teaching a course and you're like, this assignment is not doing these students justice, please tell us. We can certainly talk about how we can revise that. So we don't have the awareness. So if you are teaching a class and there's assignments or discussions that you feel like really should be addressed, email me, email your program director, email your dean, email your lead faculty, any of us. Go to your college curriculum meeting, because ultimately we want to make sure that our curriculum is preparing our students. So we're going to go through a couple of examples of what this might look like. So here's an example. I actually pulled this out of a classroom. So this student says she wants to become an FMP and continue practicing with women and focusing on women's health. So a response might be, saying, I have a few colleagues who focus on women's health and they find it very fulfilling. I found a few resources to be particularly helpful in staying current on women's health and will list them below. And then what do you think is the most challenging part of working within women's health, right? So we want to keep the conversation going, but a lot of times we have resources that our students just don't know about. And so it's so easy to just plug those into the discussions. And we go to the next example, Logan. This might be an announcement. So for a teacher, let's say in week 4, they're going to focus on parent communication. Just stressing, it's going to be a vital part of your career. And here are my personal top 3 tips for parent communication, right? Like we all have so much knowledge and experience to pass along to our students. And announcements is a really great way to help take the topic of the week and then translate it to what it means for their career. And I think there's one more example here. This is how you might give feedback on an assignment. So you might just say, you have a strong ability to communicate. This will be really great for your career, right? All I've done, and I see faculty use, you have a strong ability to communicate and feedback all the time. All I've done is added that last part. This will be really great for your career. And then one thing that you could say is, throughout your assignment, you use the word this frequently, and sometimes it becomes confusing to know what you were referring to. Within the business world, clarity is vital. In the future, try to avoid using words like this and instead just state what you were referring to. So we are still grading on the rubric. We're still giving feedback based on the rubric, but we can give a bonus tip, right? We can give those little extra gems for our students about what they're doing and how it's translating to their career. So all of these were examples of, with a current course, what you can do. But as many of you know, we are revising our courses. We're building new courses. We're revising old courses. We're looking at data to revise courses. So if you ever have the opportunity, or if you currently are a SME and you're working on course design or course redesign, consider these kind of tips. So consider the skills that a student might need related to the topic of the course, and then create assignments that mirror the real life application. A lot of feedback, not just from our students, but students in general across higher ed, is that there's a lot of busy work and they don't feel like it necessarily prepares them for that real life experience. So create assignments, think back to, or look at job boards and see what are students needing to do, and then create assignments that kind of mirror those. Integrate career-related articles and resources. So this is another really easy way to just give students kind of that extra confidence of, this is what you're doing in the class and here's how it translates outside of the class. Mention the specific skills they are building within the assignment prompt. So this goes back to that skill awareness gap. Let's say you're doing a case study. You can say in the assignment prompt, this week we're doing a case study. Case studies are great because they're building your critical thinking skills, which is a vital part of your future employment or something, right? So consider adding in the prompt even the language, because the more we can say it, the more they're going to recall it when they go to that interview. So even if they've never had professional experience, if we keep telling them these are the skills you're building, they're going to get to that interview and they're going to go, I do have these skills. I have critical thinking. I have communication. I have professionalism. And I've demonstrated it this many times throughout my program. And then create assignments that will help them build professional toolkits. So this one is kind of one of my favorites. If you're a faculty and you're teaching up teachers, you can help them build their professional toolkits. There's so many different websites for lesson plannings, for classroom design, parent communication, right? We want to continue to give them kind of resources that they might need in the future. If you're teaching a business course, maybe you want them to understand different CRMs or social media planners or whatever it might be. You can have them explore those resources and then create their own professional toolkits, again, so that when they're interviewing or they're stepping into the workplace or they're elevating to a leadership role, they can point back to this technology and these resources and say, I have a whole toolkit available to me that I've been building up this entire time. I think that's it for me. So hopefully that's helpful. We're going to give you some more resources, but I'm going to pass it along to Logan.
Yeah, and I think when you may be sitting in an adjunct faculty position and feeling like, I don't really have any opportunities, you definitely do. And I encourage you, engage with them in discussions, post announcements, share your stories, share your resources, because you do have those capabilities and you never know how far those resources will go. Like Nicole said, you're helping them along the way build that toolkit that they need to be successful after they complete their program. And so remember, we're not just thinking to get them to graduation, we're trying to get them to be successful afterwards. So I know that was lots of resources for faculty, and so this is really for everybody. I really want to encourage you to kind of build this campus culture that is really career focused and helping prepare our students for what's next, not just to graduation. Refer students, refer them to me. You are kind of that liaison. Like I said, you're that first line of defense. And so if you can say, hey, we actually have a human at USU that can help you with this, I'll send you to Logan now, and just forward it on or send them over to me, give them my contact information. You can even send them the direct link to the website. It has lots of information. They'll be able to contact me that way as well. As I said, your experiences and your stories are valuable and they're important. And so I encourage you to share those in whatever way you wish, whether that's through the courses, or maybe you're working with a student, maybe you're a placement coordinator over an OFE and you have a student. Share your story. Maybe you really struggled going through your own program, and talk about some study habits or study tips that you have. Even those things make a difference. Those announcements in courses, right? Remind students of the upcoming events. As I said, I host lots of them. There's always something going on. So definitely refer them there. And then if you have a course project like portfolio building as an example, or maybe they're working on their resumes or CVs, encourage them to reach out to me for support, because a lot of them probably haven't done one of these before, or they haven't updated their resume in a while. And so there's some new standards in terms of the job market that they should know about. So definitely refer them over to me. And then anything career related that you think of or that you get in your inbox, if you get events, job fairs, employment opportunities, anything, send it over to me, because I love sharing that out with our students. I have my own little D2L shell where it's open to anybody, any student can see it. And I always post announcements and upcoming events in there. And so even if you share it in your own course, I will share it in mine too, so that all the information is being sent out in different avenues. So they're definitely going to get the information one way or another. And so I do want to highlight a couple awesome humans who are already doing fantastic things here at USU that I'm so appreciative of. So first is the College of Education team. There's a couple different things that they're doing to help me out. And one is putting career and alumni services information and resources within their orientation. So if there's student interns coming up, starting their student teaching, they put my career and alumni services information right in that or PowerPoint for them. So they have all the information right when they start their experience. They're also really fabulous about gathering employment data for me. For our intern placement students, they're already working. So we can gather that information right when they start, and then we have it at the end of their program when they complete it. And so that's great for me, because I don't have to track them down. Miss Maicha over in OFE, fabulous at sending placement sites who are looking to hire our students. She's always sending me these employers so that I can reach out, get that information, and then target our alumni correctly. Dr. Gruno also doing that fabulous work of sending me career-related opportunities, lots of job fairs, also lots of webinars for me to help train our nurses in different hiring practices. So I really appreciate her for that. Dr. Collinsworth, who's actually on our call. I love that she always reaches out and says, hey, I'm sending out the quarterly newsletter for nursing students. I want to include career services in there. So she always lets me include a blurb in her newsletter. And then our awesome registrar team, Bree and Omar are on, I think. So Madison and the registrar and I partnered together to host our What's Next workshop for our pending FNP grads. And so we really go super in depth in that workshop to really help them understand the nursing licensure process and next steps, where to go for documents, how to get them signed. And so that's been a really awesome collaboration. And then recently, Omar has included Career and Alumni Services in our 1220 service into the international student orientation. And so our international students have to have an internship when they start. They can use 1220 and that platform to find employment opportunities and internships that would count. So really fabulous that I have humans here already being my little career champions at USU. And I really hope and encourage all of you to kind of get inspired by some of these ideas. And if you have things that you're already doing that you can incorporate career services in, please let me know. I'm always looking for new ways we can kind of trickle some things in there. And so, as Nicole said, we have a couple of resources for you that we're going to follow up with. And these are already in the faculty commons. The first one is a faculty toolkit, and I'm going to actually show you what this looks like. So this is a little packet of information. It has all of the career and alumni services information in it. Bump this up a little bit. So it talks about career alumni services. You have my little face here, my email, the website. Talks about the competencies that we briefly talked about, the skills, right, that we're trying to develop with our students. Different faculty support options. So some different ways that you can kind of help integrate this into the curriculum. And then we have our different activities and different skills that these relate to. And then these are actual real examples that you're already probably doing in your courses. And again, the skill that it relates to. So as Nicole said, even if you say, you know, week 4, we're going to be writing reflection papers and assignments, this really helps develop your career and self-development, reflecting on this assignment and how it's going to relate to your future career. So just something quick like that can really let the student know that this has a purpose, right? What we're doing has a purpose, not just to complete an assignment, but it really is helping you in your future career. And then some different announcement examples as well. And so here's one, you know, it's very similar. This week, we're going to work on these 3 skills. And I also have a sample email template. So at the beginning of your course, or if you know, you have a specific week that they're going to be working on career-related documents or things like that, you can send an email and say, hey, just to remind you, Logan is here with Career and Alumni Services. Definitely reach out if you need support with this assignment. This page is just a little bit more awareness. So what do we do? Website, 1220 information is there. So this is in the faculty commons for you. And then additionally, more templates. So we're really making it very easy for you to do this really quickly in your courses. And so we put together these faculty announcement templates. So you can just take this, copy it, put your personal story, put your information in there, put the specific skills, and then post it right in your course. And then if you see this little image here, we even created some really cute icons that you can just use, copy and embed right in those announcements to kind of draw attention to that post. And so if you have other ideas for different things, or you know, you have a wish list of items, definitely reach out and we can certainly make it happen. But I know that we gave you lots of ideas today. And so we really appreciate you being here, one, because that means you care about it. I know that everybody at USU cares about our students, but it's especially important that we prepare them for what's next after they graduate. So thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Dr. Hain, for having us. And if anybody has any questions, we'll kind of hang out for a few minutes. But otherwise, we appreciate you all and all the work that you do.
Yeah, Donna.
Hi, you guys did a terrific job, but my brain doesn't always think as quickly as you talk. So I was wondering 2 questions. One for Logan, if you could go to the slide or tell us what were the 3 biggest concerns or 3 main things that come up the most. And then Nicole, you had a terrific slide that said something like, instead of writing this, write this. And it was something about feedback, you know, grading, professionalism. If you could share those 2 again, those were really helpful, but I want to make sure I have them correctly in my brain.
I think this is the one that, Nicole, is this the one with the rubric?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Could you go over that again, or what was the thing to avoid, and how should we word it instead?
Yeah, so this was more just a lot of times I'll see kind of the first part of this in a grading rubric. An instructor might say you have a strong ability to communicate. So one of my recommendations is just taking that one step further and just saying you have a really strong ability to communicate. This will be great for your career. But then sometimes we might see students using the word this in their paper all the time, right? And that's not necessarily in their rubric because they're still following, it still may make sense and we can't ding them, but we might just say, hey, this is kind of a careful nudge. Avoid using the word this because it's confusing and we don't know what it means. So instead, just say exactly what you're referring to. So with feedback like this, we do need to be careful because it's a very gentle line, right? It's not necessarily related to the rubric or how we're grading them. We always just want to say, like, this is us giving you a little bit of an extra kind of bonus tip.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And then the 3 areas, was it for faculty and staff or for students?
I think one of them was about being prepared for the interview or something, or virtual interview. So maybe whatever.
Oh,
Heard of.
yes. Yeah, so these 3 here are things that I hear all the time, is that everybody's hiring, but it seems no one can actually secure the position, or I can't get a job. And then my skills are becoming obsolete and they're no longer useful, or that's the feedback that I'm getting. And then I'm not prepared for a virtual interview process. I would say this one is probably the most common, the virtual interview process. Our students are non-traditional learners, right? It's been a while since they've looked for a job. And so the process is entirely different. And so helping them prepare as much as possible, making sure they're aware of AI interviewing, also one-way interviews. So that's where they are given a prompt or a question on their screen, and then they have to record themselves answering. And so how we could relate this to coursework is if maybe there's a project and they need to record their presentation, right? Working on their professional development, public speaking skills. That's one way that we can kind of support them. I'm not asking you to be career professionals and learn everything you can about hiring processes, but maybe just thinking like, okay, this is a skill that we want to work on. How can we relate this to what they're doing in their program? And then, go ahead.
Well, actually gave me an idea in the middle of that. In the final course of any program, it really could be implemented in anything like COE and COB, everything, because my idea was maybe during a sync session, and we're lucky in the main program of nursing, the biggest program, FNP, there is a sync session in the final course. The instructor could tell everybody ahead of time, hey, during our sync session, we're going to take 15 minutes and I'm going to fire off a random question and select each student at random. There's only 8 students maximum in those. So the professor, the faculty could actually on the spot practice and say, we're going to practice interviewing. Do your best to answer whatever question is thrown at you, where everyone has to participate and everyone has to have their camera, on. That might be a good exercise to throw into the sync session casually. It really could be casual. It doesn't even need to be part of the rubric. It could just be an exercise. It could also even be embedded into a rubric where if they know about it ahead of time, they come prepared, they're dressed professionally, they speak clearly, they answer the question without trailing off and going into tangents. I have to say that I interview, some of our former students or graduates from our FNP program for the DNP, and I see such a wide array. Really, it's kind of shocking because I interviewed someone today who is extremely professional. Everything was set up nicely in her office, professionally dressed. And yet I've interviewed other candidates, same school, same program, who show up in a car in a parking lot, who weren't dressed nicely and, very distracted. So it's interesting how we get such a wide array, but having these exercises and having these extra, things in our program to bolster everyone's skills, not just the ones who already come in with the skills, will really be beneficial. So thank you so much for giving this lecture.
Yeah, and I think Nicole touched on it earlier, is that the social capital is really huge, right? And so when you have a difference in interviewees, you could remember like, well, maybe they didn't have a role model, or maybe they didn't have a career services in their undergraduate program or their master's program to really help prepare them for interviews. And so maybe taking that out and then looking at it, from that approach. But there's definitely so much work that we can do here at USU in our programs to really help prepare for these little things that come up after they complete it. So yeah, I think that's a good idea, though. I think more of that, or it doesn't even have to be a live, Zoom session. It could just be, hey, I know a lot of you are completing your program soon. Here's a couple tips for interviewing that I have used in my career, right? Something like that, it would be sufficient too.
I love those ideas. That's great.
Something I've noticed too is a lot of our programs, students are asked to do a portfolio at the end. And within that portfolio, we ask them to put, sometimes we tell them specifically, you did this assignment, do it here, or you did this assignment, make sure you add it. But the thing is that a lot of our students, when they're doing assignments in the moment, they don't necessarily realize that they might need to add it to a portfolio later. So I've seen a presentation where there's laundry in the background, where a student is on their couch, where they're in their pajamas, a wide range of, they probably just didn't predict that at the very end it would go into a portfolio for employers. So they were thinking, oh, this is just an assignment, I just need it quickly, it's probably 11:50 at night, this is due in 10 minutes, I need to get this out really quickly. But if we can kind of tell them ahead of time, like, hey, this could go into your portfolio, please take it seriously, and here's some ways, we might start seeing just an elevated caliber of presentations and videos as well.
That's a great point. Wonderful. This is thing has gotten me thinking about so many things, because I teach in that like Donna does in the 597 for the FNP program. So, that last clinical course for the program, and just, I love that idea about having them sort of think about, how am I going to present myself for an interview, whether it be in the sync session or even just talking about it in an announcement. It's a great idea. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
Not so much, but just as the lead of 597, I was thinking about all these ideas, and they're really great. And I wanted to see, would it be beneficial if we posted an announcement to try to think about interview questions, how you would respond, if we could, get a list, and so the students could think about that with their portfolio. Maybe, the problem is it's not a recording. So that might be a little bit challenging for us to make a change on that. But I think at least letting them anticipate questions that they may hear in order for them to come up with the responses, would be a great idea.
Or have them then use that list and have someone help them practice at home, so that, they can, put themselves in that role and do a role play with a family member.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea as well.
Yeah, we could certainly work on that. I have thousands of questions. I have a huge question bank in my Google Drive. And then I try to tailor, if a student reaches out and they say, hey, I want to practice interviewing, I'll ask them the specific positions. So in this case, for our F&P students, I can really kind of tailor that list for you all. And then when the announcement goes out, we can provide some additional details on how to answer specific questions, like behavioral questions versus just standardized interview questions, or information response ones. So I think that's a good idea, and we can certainly implement that pretty quickly. The portfolio is always challenging, and as most of you know, you always get emails from me that I host the portfolio building workshop for FNP 597 students every session. And that's a tough one, because a lot of them are just, they're so close to finishing and they just want to get it over with. But then there's also, that small population of students that do see the value, and they have really amazing portfolios. And it always is really inspiring for me, because I give them the tools and resources to kind of take it and go from there. And then when they come back and say, hey, Logan, can you just review it before I submit it? I'm always blown away at those few students who really go above and beyond for that assignment. And so how can we really encourage them to see the value of that specific assignment, because it is important. Employers do ask for that portfolio oftentimes. So thinking more critically about how we can kind of reframe those is going to be key.
Looks like Donna
Yeah,
has
Donna.
another question.
Yeah, one other opportunity for collaboration, and you may have already done this, is the FNP immersion. I'm already going to make some accommodations in our schedule for DMP residency, I'm pretty sure. But for FNP immersion, you could reach out to Dr. Zimmerman and see if she has any available time, or if not time, at least put the link on the schedule if it's not already there.
Okay.
Because it's great if you could, come up to that, because everyone goes through that and you could speak live in front of them. I do know just, that from being in immersion that Professor Zimmerman's very good about addressing professionalism and dress. Like if someone shows up in scrubs or jeans, she's very quick to very tactfully but kindly point out, the need for more professional attire. So they do come across that in immersion. I'm not sure exactly how much, that can be taught over virtual, but at least from the waist up, they'll have to have that element. So we are definitely bringing it up, that aspect, in some parts of the program.
Good. That is fabulous. Yeah, because that component too is the immersion is kind of a really important turning point in their program. They're like really getting ready for the second half. So I think I'm very happy to hear Dr. Zimmer. I'm not surprised. But I'm happy to see that is happening. But I'll definitely reach out and see what the options are, because that'd be great. Even if it was just 5 minutes, just popping on and saying hi.
I also want to add that in talking to Dr. Zimmerman, you can also, I know that you're working for the old school, but FNP specific, it's not just about, that also clinical questions, and, they need to know their stuff.
Yeah.
So I think also including that even though you might have all this general knowledge and all the information about, how to do a good interview, but you also have to be able to answer specific questions. So it's important that they practice. So I think that could also be addressed at Imagine, where you can actually have them, you can put it in as part of something on the Imagine where, how do you answer a question if somebody decides to ask you a clinical, you are going to apply for a job in dermatology. So you need to know something about dermatology. You can just say, oh yeah,
right.
I think something like that, just specific, because sometimes it's general, but for FNP, it's clinical. So aside from the other aspect of it, also the proficient aspect of it is important for our students to display when they go, and the confidence, so I can do this. I may have not done this before, but I know I can, it has to be there. So I just wanted to kind of have that too.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Dr. O.
Good point.
I think this kind of helps us build a case with the AI debate too right now, right? Like I'm not anti-AI at all. But when you're in an interview, you're going to have to be there to say, you're going to have to speak for yourself. AI will not be there. ChatGPT will not be there. And so when you're answering, or when you're interviewing for a DMP program or a DBA or whatever it may be, ChatGPT won't be there helping you out. And so this kind of helps us steer that conversation too, right? If you're going to use AI, use it responsibly, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for the knowledge that you retain. So I think keeping that career focus too might help us navigate some of those AI conversations that I know we are all having a lot of.
Great. Anyone else have any other questions or comments? This has been so helpful. We really appreciate all your efforts and all you do for our students and your time putting this together.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that we send a follow-up email with those resources, and then also a copy of the slides. So if you have any questions or ideas later on, or think of things or ways that we can collaborate, definitely reach out. My email is always open. You can ping me on Teams. But I always love new ideas. I'm always happy to entertain them and put them into action, for sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And those of you that weren't here at the beginning, now that we've been talking about nursing curriculum, I'll be able to send out CEUs from the California Board of Nursing. So those will go out most likely tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dr. Haynes.
Thanks, everybody.